Now, more than ever, we need to focus on stories of strength, courage, and unity. Welcome to COVID Talks, a series dedicated to promoting positive conversations during uncertain times.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 25th, that's right, 25th episode of COVID Talks, Positive Conversations During Uncertain Times. My name is Anthony Rapp of PR Cision LLC. I'll be your host tonight, as I am every night. For those of you tuning in live, first and foremost, thank you for watching us. We truly appreciate it. If you could do me a favor, go to the bottom of the post, wherever you're watching, click the share button so we can continue to spread the message of positivity. If you're listening in on our podcast, again, I appreciate it. Thank you for downloading, and thank you for listening. So tonight, before we get into our headlines, we have one of the most intelligent people I know. We're very happy to have him here with us tonight. We have James Thomson from Scammerdella, Gervasi, Thompson, and Casagran, an expert in small business law, an expert in real estate law, both commercial and residential. So we're going to bring him on. And actually, the governor issued a statement today related to commercial and landlord tenant issues. And it couldn't be more perfect that we have him here tonight. So he's going to answer those questions in real time. But before we bring him up, let's just go to a couple of our positive news headlines of the day like we do each and every day. So first up, a local Staten Island nurse, actually a graduate of St. Joseph by the Sea High School, is competing in a competition for a wedding dress. So all you got to do is, I'm going to put the link in the comment section right now. So I ask you to help Jackie Pickering, who is a Staten Island registered nurse who works at Staten Island University Hospital. Click the link in the chat link that I just posted, like her photo, which you can see there. And the more likes she gets, the more entries she receives to win a free wedding dress for her wedding from Castle Couture located in New Jersey. If anybody deserves a free wedding dress, I would say right now, there's no one more deserving than a nurse. So please click that link, take a look, and help her win. And some good news today coming out, even though the news is somewhat incomplete. Staten Island is going to get a site for antibody testing related to COVID-19. The article states that the testing site will be located somewhere in the Concord section of Staten Island. Hasn't been released yet as to where it's going to be, but I'm sure news will be coming out soon. So that's good news. Stay tuned and check out and see where the location is going to be, because they're saying they're going to be able to test about 1,000 people a day. So anyone who's interested in seeing or getting the antivirus test, which myself included, stay tuned and on the lookout for that, because that'll be coming very soon. Hockey team, group of 7-year-old hockey team members from the New York Titans put together and created a social media campaign, and they basically are encouraging people to stay at home. And the mantra is, we stay at home so we can get back on the ice and play hockey. Let's go Titans. So positive news coming from 7-year-old kids who are looking to get back on the ice, play hockey. We love them. We hope to God that we're able to get you guys back out on the ice very soon. And thank you for all the positive news that you're bringing to us. And last, Mother's Day is this weekend. Giovanni's Trattoria, local restaurant here in Eltingville, Staten Island, has put together a virtual wine tasting kit for Mother's Day. You can essentially order a kit online. They'll send you everything you need, from the custom wine glass to the individual bottles of wine to a nice wine and cheese platter and tasting card. And then on Saturday night, you're going to have the ability to log into a live stream event, which will be curated by the manager of Giovanni's Trattoria. Interactive. If you're not home with mom, you could send a kit to mom and you guys could be together virtually. Just something new, something different coming out of Staten Island. All right, and 2 quick PSAs. How do you stay in touch with us? How do you follow us? Follow us on Facebook at COVID Talk. Check out our website, covid-talks.com. We have all our old episodes as well as our upcoming episodes posted on the site. You can check it out. Visit us on YouTube, of course. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at COVID Talks. And check us out on iTunes and Spotify, because you can download each night's broadcast as a podcast. And finally, if you're interested in being a guest, or you have a topic you think we should discuss, or in fact, if you or your client would like to host an event like we're doing right now, a virtual online seminar or webinar or live stream, shoot us an email, info@prcision.com. We'd be more than happy to help you out and get you started and get you up and running. All right, so with that, let's do this. So again, the governor made an announcement today as it was related to landlords and tenants and COVID-19 eviction notices and things of that nature, things that I have no idea about. But thankfully, we have someone with us tonight who's going to talk to us a little bit about small business law, real estate law, commercial, residential. Also, what he thinks that all small business owners should be doing now or put in place right now, so that when we come out of the current state of quarantine and the pause that we're on right now, that you'll be in a better position in the future. So with us, ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, the handsome Jimmy Thomson from Scamadella, Gervasi, Thompson, and Casagrande. Are you there?
Perfect. Thank you, Rap. What's going on?
Nothing. I had to throw in that you were handsome too, brother.
Episode. I didn't know I was that special.
I had to throw in that you were handsome too.
I saw the picture you put up.
So before we get into nitty gritty and before we get into legal talk, because I'm not that smart, so let's start from the beginning. Let's tell us about your background, your history, where you grew up, and what got you into law.
Sure, absolutely. So I have lived on the North Shore of Staten Island for my whole 39 years. So that's where I grew up. That's where I am. That's where I practice at my firm, which has been in West Brighton for about 60 years. So as far as my background goes, as far as how I got into law, when I graduated college, 2002, it was shortly after September 11th. The job market wasn't tremendous back then. And I really wasn't too sure exactly what I wanted to do. I was throwing around possibly going for a master's in business administration, since I had gone to graduate with a degree in business marketing and management from Albany. And I lightly looked for jobs. I'd be lying if I said I really got that into it. But a few of my good friends from college went straight to law school. And as I was chatting with a couple of them, they said, "Oh, why don't you take the LSAT? I mean, what do you have to lose?" And I ended up taking that and got into a few schools. And just after thinking it through, I felt that was the best option for what I wanted to do. So I went to St. John's for law school. And not being somebody who was so interested in the law that it was something I wanted to do my whole life, that I always felt I was heading in that direction, I really didn't know exactly where I wanted to go. I think one of the best, after law school, I think one of the best things about a law degree is that you can go so many different ways. You can practice law, private practice, like I've done. There are plenty of public service positions. You can just take the law degree and not necessarily practice, but use what you've learned and apply it to other careers. A lot of people say that they go to law school to sort of learn just the way that you learn to think in law school, not necessarily wanting to practice. So with that lack of knowledge on my part, I made it a point to do several internships during law school. I interned with Judge Minardo, observing how things were down in court. I interned with District Attorney Dan Donovan and got a taste of what goes on there. And then the way that I actually ended up in my current position is I was driving up the block and saw Bob Scamadella, who was someone I've known for a long time, outside watering his grass. And I said, maybe I should hop out and say hello to this guy. Said hello, and the next day he called me and said that they happened to be looking for a law student. Would I be interested in coming in to work there? And where the need really was in real estate. And I had a background for 6 years working for title companies and at the county clerk, very familiar with real estate documentation on the legal end. So it was a natural fit. And then the firm had a 190 unit residential development job that they were getting to work on right around the time I graduated. So things worked out during the internship. I stayed on to work that development, and then 15 years later, I'm still here.
So intern to partner, correct?
Intern to partner, that's right.
So before we get into the other questions, tell me what that's like. So, it's like one of those started from the bottom, now you're here, right? You started at the bottom as an intern. And how many years were you there until you got bumped up from intern to employee, and then from legal team member to partner?
It's strange because in some ways it seemed like it took forever on the way, but then I look back and I can't believe I've been there so long. So a year as intern, it was 10 years as associate, and now this is the third or fourth year as a partner. So that was sort of the run.
At least Bob made you work a little. 10 years, all right.
At least Bob made me work a little. So
you put your time in. All right. So your law firm, and again, for anyone who doesn't know, the law firm is a storied law firm. How many years has it been around?
Just over 60.
Yeah. So anyone who lives on Staten Island, you know this law firm because they're kind of a pillar within the community, both for their legal advice and counsel, as well as how philanthropic they are and what they do. So, I mean, for you to be a partner at that law firm is a huge testament to your work ethic, you know, what you do, who you know, and you made it sound like in your opening you were wandering around and just became a lawyer. I think there's a lot more to it. So
Something like that.
you deserve credit for it. You deserve credit. So you guys handle a host of clients. You handle
Right.
multiple different aspects of law.
Mhm.
What's kind of your area of specialty, and what do you focus on specifically?
Okay, so I oversee the real estate and business law at the firm. Our staff we have it's myself. We have one other attorney, James West, who's been with us. Also started as an intern and practicing. He's with us, I think, just over 4 years now. And then we have 2 assistants at this point specific to the department. The way that we have it structured is that for the most part now, James does all the residential closings. I do all the commercial real estate closings. And also on the commercial real estate end, there's a substantial amount of leasing work and commercial landlord tenant, which for the most part I oversee. And then our business clients, to a great extent, we work together, James and I drafting operating agreements, drafting different contracts. And just depending on the workflow at any given time, we'll do what needs to be done to get things done in time. But those are our areas, my area.
So full disclosure for anybody watching or listening, I'm a client. Jimmy is my legal counsel. Sometimes he's even like my psychiatrist, I'll call it. But
that's part of the job, right?
I can personally attest to the fact that everything they do, everything coming out of that law firm is amazing, and the advice is even better, quite honestly. So we're on quarantine, country's on pause, but legal matters don't stop, right? Just because everyone's home, it's not like they put a stop button on all the transactions you're dealing with. Absolutely. What are you guys currently doing? How have you adapted, and how are you continuing to work with clients, but also keeping you and them and everyone safe?
Okay, so I have to say that no one's lucky this happened, but we're lucky that this happened now as opposed to 10 years ago for a couple of different reasons. First off, of course, across industries, there have been so many technological advances just to be able to do things from different places. That's more generally speaking, but specific to our law firm, my partner Leslie, in particular, I would say over the last 5 years, really took an interest and took the lead in technologically advancing the firm. I mean, as long as we've been around, we do have great relationships. I mean, great. The firm has had a presence in the community since long before I've been around. But sometimes with the long existing businesses, one thing that does fall behind as you're servicing your clients and worrying about them is working on your own business. So there was a real focus to get us to where we are now. And the changes that, again, Leslie has really taken the lead on implementing have allowed our staff to work remotely much, much easier, made the practice management software that we have now is much more efficient and allows us to get things done a lot more quickly. In addition, this year, we did the upgrade to the phones that I know a number of businesses have done, so that if somebody calls the office phone, if they put my extension in right now, it'll dial right through to my cell phone. So whether I'm at the office, whether I'm at my home where I am right now or anywhere else, I'm able to provide a lot of the services, the vast majority really, that I provide when the office is physically open. So I would just say that for my department, I mean, document signing, things like that, the commercial side has sort of been ahead of the residential side, just industry-wise, in things being done remotely in New York. So that there's not that seismic of a change. I know we'll get into that in a little more detail. The other 2 departments at my firm, the way it works, I already described what I oversee. Bobby Scamadello oversees the operation generally and handles a few clients who have constant repeat business. Leslie, who I mentioned, oversees the estate administration and estate planning department. So what she's been faced with is that is an area where there is, they're very personal situations. The face-to-face sit-down historically was a big part of that. and that's out the window for now. Unless absolutely necessary. The governor's order does allow for signing of estate planning documents, and we have set up a place where that can be done safely and in a sanitary way. But the calls have been coming in. I mean, it's been noted that nationally, with people seeing what's going on and wanting to make sure that their affairs are in order, there's been a large increase in estate planning calls. So we're getting the phone calls, and Leslie's taking them the meetings by Zoom, drawing the documents up, and then making sure that whatever needs to be done to get them signed under the parameters that are required under New York law, that is done. So what we've done is kept track of the state orders and the regulations, and complied with them. Additionally, in the budget bill, there were changes to the community Medicaid regulations. So that has been something that we've had to stay on top of and address amidst all the COVID stuff. I mean, that applies to everybody, so that's there. And then, on the litigation side, I mean, questions are coming in left and right, as you would expect. It's, business interruption insurance. What's the coverage? Contracts. So is my contract enforceable? There hasn't been that much yet as far as personal injury or anything that's
a good thing.
People on the move, right? And anything arising from this, but there's no question that those things are going to be considered. So yeah, I guess one good thing for the legal business is that in good times and in bad, people need us, and we're here. And as always, we recommend that if people have a question about what's going on, that they call their lawyers before they make a decision, whether that lawyer be us or somebody else.
Well, we're going to recommend that they email you. So we just put up your email address. So I don't want anybody calling or emailing their lawyer. We want them to bother you. So email Jimmy at jthompson@statenlaw.com. I known him for years. He'd be more than willing to shoot you back an email, get on the phone with you, and answer some questions. That's just the kind of guy that he is. So you mentioned and you alluded to the statement the governor made today.
Yes.
So talk about what the statement is, what the impact is, because now I know this deals with commercial tenant landlord relationships. Sure. Is that correct?
Sure. So it deals with both commercial and residential. Actually, what he announced today, and as a lot of people have seen with the executive orders, whether they're federal or on the state level, the announcement of the basic concept has come before the detail. So we don't know exactly the mechanics of how this will work, but I actually have what the governor said, because again, it's so new and I want to make sure that it's accurate. From his own website and following his news conference, the announcement today was that the state's moratorium on COVID-related residential or commercial evictions is extended for an additional 60 days until August 20th. So there is a specification of COVID-related. What exactly that means is not clear yet, but I think everybody can claim some kind of an impact from COVID. So the initial thought is that evictions statewide are just not going to happen until August 20th at the earliest. The governor also announced that the state is banning late payments or fees for missed rent payments during the eviction moratorium, and allowing renters facing financial hardship due to COVID-19 to use their security deposit as payment and to repay that security deposit over time. So the governor essentially is explicitly saying that if you don't pay your rent, you're not through August 20th, you won't have a late fee, you can't be evicted. It's just saying that there's not much impact to that.
So I want to interrupt you for 1 second.
Sure.
Because from a personal standpoint, because you said it applies to residential as well, am I correct?
Yes.
So I own a 2-family home. What does that mean for me? In theory, my tenant doesn't have to pay me?
In theory, yes. So what's happened so far is that, to answer your basic question, yes, your tenant does. If your tenant doesn't pay you, you can send them a rent demand. When courts reopen, maybe you can even start an action, but you can't get them out until August 20th, and you can't charge them late fees. So let's say, even looking at this, waiting for clarification, even looking at this in the most favorable scenario to you as the landlord, you have no final enforcement for quite some time. Even if the courts open up and you bring an action, get a warrant, whatever the case might be, the tenant will be able to come until August 20th. Here's the money, and you have to sit and wait for it.
What about the commercial side? So I'm screwed as the residential side, but one of my businesses we lease, so I'm okay. Right. But what if I own the building where my secondary business is? What am I?
based upon this, based upon the governor's announcement, you can hold back on paying your rent. I mean, that's just what it comes down to, is that there's not much that can be done. You'll owe it at the end of the day because there has not been a waiver as of yet. I also want to note that there has been some question about the constitutionality of some of these executive orders, most famously in places like Michigan with protesters storming the doors. But even things like this, governors, presidents, they're not kings, they're not high rulers. So certainly there are things that the governor can do. But if it is pushed too far, there will be real estate groups that push back. I don't know whether it's come to that point yet, but again, I strongly recommend, as it seems that I think most are at this point, that the best bet is for landlords and tenants to communicate and try to figure out something that works both ways to the extent they can.
And if you have the ability to pay, this is not, it's not the same thing, but it reminds me of the mortgage forbearance, right? If you can pay, because somewhere down the line, this is going to come back and bite you, no?
Right, it will, and I really have to say that I've been heartened by both landlords and tenants. The majority of my landlord clients, they call up, and if they have a tenant that the landlord for the most part knows which tenants are operating and which aren't, and which are operating at close to full capacity and which aren't. And most of my landlord clients have looked to work with their good tenants. If they know that someone's going through a tough time and they know that that the person really isn't operating, they're looking to work with them. Now, I mean, keep in mind, I know that a lot of the time the public sentiment is landlord bad, that all landlords are multi-billion dollar property owners who have money to throw away. A lot of the vast majority of landlords, I believe, are small, more mom and pop type who own a few properties, who have worked and saved money, and that's their investment. So this does have a big impact on most landlords. That being said, they're looking to work out some kind of a deferment, maybe waive rent, maybe not. But generally speaking, they are looking to do the right thing, and that's been heartening. But tenants are looking to take advantage 100%.
So what I would say, and this is just an observation, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but at least here on Staten Island, I feel like the majority, maybe not the majority, but a good percentage of building and property owners are vacant landlords, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least from where we're located. There's lots of people who own lots of property. They live in Florida. They live in, they're not even here. So they're vacant landlords. Do they have, is it even more difficult for them to try and gain legs from a legal standpoint, since they're not even, they can't see the people anyway, but now they're not even able to technically broker a deal. They're just not getting that check in the mail, or they're not getting that direct deposit, right? And that's just it. That's how it's going to go.
I would think it depends on their operations. I think that most people who operate from far away, they have some boots on the ground, whether it be a family member or a professional who can do things for them. So I don't necessarily think that would make things more difficult. I think that the ones that are going to have the biggest problem at the end of the day, whether they live here or far away, are on either side ones that are being too aggressive. I think that the courts and the law are going to take into account that this has impacted almost everybody, if not everybody, and that people who are working in good faith are going to have the upper hand once the moment of truth comes, as opposed to people who are just looking out for their own interests.
Gotcha. So let me ask you a question it's unfair, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So on a good note, news is kind of shifting slightly from the death toll and all the horrific stuff going on. But every once in a while, the last couple of days, we're seeing a headline and we're seeing a media clip, and it's talking about reopening. The governor said, the mayor actually said the pause is real, right? May 15th, they're going to go for it. Again, it's going to be slow. It's going to be fragmented. It's going to be very, put together, compartmentalized. But do you see clients now, or do you have any recommendations for even for non-clients? What's something that small business owners can do from a business standpoint? And then what's something that from a commercial or a residential real estate standpoint, people should be thinking of now to prepare for when, we're back to normal, things that can get done now to protect us later on?
I would, from a business standpoint, no, I really think the best advice that I can think of, and the one that I'm trying to keep in my own mind, is as a business owner, obviously things happen around us. We can only control what we can control, and you have to look for the opportunity in every situation, even if it's a bad situation, as this has been. Hopefully this is a once in a lifetime thing. But it's been a learning experience. I mean, I know I've spoken to a lot of our mutual friends who are business owners, and they say that they've learned certain efficiencies for their businesses, that they've had some time to think and maybe to dream a little bit more like they did in when they first started the business, and that's what drew them into it before the day-to-day sort of wore them down. That they've also maybe made it home for dinner a few more times a week, and that sort of, brought them more joy and just, made their whole life better. And as you know, when you're a small business owner, there's a huge synergy between you personally and your business. So I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give is, as the doors open, and for some businesses, it's not going to be if the floodgates are open. For some, it is to remember the things that you learned during the last couple months, the improvements, and to not throw those out, and to really stay focused on applying them. And just as those got you through hard times now, I think that those will get you through what should hopefully be less times, and maybe have you coming out of this even stronger than you were before.
And that's good. I love that, because I couldn't have scripted that better. It's kind of the theme that's been running through this, and not even on purpose, but the theme that, no matter how bad things are, no matter what we're going through, everyone is adapting. And
Right.
I would say 9 out of the 10 people who have been on this show in particular, or people I'm even speaking with, they all agree that there is something valuable they've learned during this being on pause and being on quarantine. There's something that they've learned, something they've created, a new way or a new mechanism of doing business, that it isn't just a Band-Aid, right? It's not just going to get us through until we're open. It's something that they've created, built, or learned how to do that's going to continue to allow them to do business in a new way in the future. I think that's extremely, extremely important that you bring that up. So before we get into our COVID talks hero of the day, I want to ask you a real estate question. So we were fortunate enough last week to have Frank Rizzo, Cornerstone Realty, who you know, and he's talking about, he put together a system, actually. So he wasn't talking about it, he did it. There's a system in place, and I don't know all the nuance because you're the legal guru, but basically we all know from afar that the real estate market is currently on hold, because let's face it, you can't go in a house, and there aren't many people who are going to buy a home, at least on the residential side, sight unseen, right? You can't just buy it on a virtual tour. But he put a system together where he's able to leverage something with contracts, et cetera, and he's actually doing deals. So are you seeing anything like this coming through your offices, or do you think this is something coming down the pike, that deals will be different from here on with real estate?
I don't know if deals will be different from here on. If I understand, I'm not 100% sure I understand his system correctly, but if I do, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the parties are entering into contracts with a condition that once the buyer is physically able, they'll be able to come do a physical inspection of the house and possibly address any issues at that time. Assuming that's the case, it is a very good very good idea. Frank, of course, is a creative guy. New York and New Jersey processes on residential real estate are substantially different. On the New Jersey side, it's actually something that is done in the normal course. So I don't know whether New York would follow over the long term, but for the current situation, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that the key is in the contractual language. As the buyer, you'd love it to be a clean contingency that says that you can go in, and if you don't like a nick in the paint in one of the corners, you can cancel. On the seller side of things, you're not going to want the buyer to tie your property up for a month or something like that, and then be able to get out for any reason. So the attorneys would have to be creative, just as Frank has been, and put language in there along the lines of that maybe if the buyer lists issues up to a certain financial threshold, the seller will cure it or have the right to cure anything, or that the buyer can only cancel for material reasons. But I do think that that the real estate industry, particularly the work that the realtors do, I certainly feel for them. There's nothing that can replace seeing a property before you buy it, especially for a home buyer who not only wants to see the property physically, but probably have an emotional connection with it. So I think that is an excellent way to get deals into contract and get the ball rolling at this point while waiting for people to be able to do their physical inspections.
Yeah, and it's both from a business standpoint, right? Because you have agents who are unable to make income, right? Let's just call it what it is. At a basic level, they're kind of stagnant because they're not allowed to do what they do. But then from the buyer's perspective, you got families who are in the midst of moving, thinking of moving, and then they couldn't. And now
Right.
they still may want to, because there's
Mhm.
probably still great deals out there. I'm not in the market. I don't know. But I'm sure there's still great deals out there, maybe
Sure.
now more than ever because of the market.
Anytime things go down, I mean, there's opportunities for buyers, especially somebody who's lucky enough to to be all cash, which tends to be more investors than home buyers. But there are definitely opportunities out there. And Frank, these technological advances that are coming out, they may be viable to some extent. Maybe they won't become standard, but now maybe Frank has somebody that typically would have gone and looked at 6 houses physically. Now he has a better ability to show them virtually, and they can do the first 6 houses. And you know what? Instead of doing 6 showings, you're only doing, you do 6 virtual, and then hold on, I really like that one. Let's do that physically.
And we heard that from Scott Satara, who you know as well from Cyborg. He said that making it easier to narrow it down. So even though right now their industry in particular is stagnant, I don't want to say stagnant's a bad word, but slow, right? Because they can't really do it. That's a positive thing that's coming out. People are able to view homes virtually, narrow them down, and then instead of going to see 400 houses with an agent, you can see 10, pick the one you like and move on with the transaction.
And as with any industry, when we come out of this, again, it probably won't be a change overnight. The day is going to come when buyers are allowed to go see houses, but who knows when people are really going to be comfortable to go. For some people, it might be quite some time. So to have that capability, I think, will be a plus for the businesses and probably even more so for the customer.
All right, so I'm going to interrupt you now. We are going to do our COVID Talks Hero of the Day. Anyone who is watching us live, I encourage you to now use the comment section. I saw a few comments come in that I already know I'm going to pull up. So get prepared, Jimmy. You got some tough questions coming at you. But right now is the time. Please use the comment section to ask any questions that you may have while we're doing the COVID Talks Hero of the Day. We'll be right back with Mr. James Thomson. But first, the COVID Talks Hero of the Day today is actually Lowe's. So Lowe's Home Improvement Center sent $1 million worth of flower baskets to seniors who are isolated and homebound across the entire country as a nice way of saying Happy Mother's Day from Lowe's. Great idea. I'm not sure exactly all the locations that they were delivered to, but in any event, it's nice to see a company like Lowe's stepping up, doing something nice for our homebound seniors. We had Joe Tornello from Meals on Wheels on the other night talking to us about how in some cases these homebound seniors, the only people they see are the people delivering their meals or their groceries. So in addition to fighting this virus, they're also fighting isolation and being home and alone and unable to get out. So shout out to Lowe's. Nice work. We appreciate it. And I'm sure the mothers and grandmothers around the country who received the flowers you sent appreciate it as well. All right. So the moment of truth. Here we go. Let's see if we got some good ones or some bad ones. I'm going to go into the comment section now. Let's see what we got. Shout out to Vito Canena. Vito, you're the best COVID Talks watcher from day one. I don't think he's missed an episode yet. Mike Bloomfield, shout out to Mike. Bob Zarelli, where are you? Bob, your comment is one I wanted to post. All right. So we got a comment from our friend Bob. Any movement in the state regarding business insurance loss of income claims from Bob Zarelli, Jelly Belly.
Business insurance loss of income claims. I hate to do it, especially to Z, but I have to punt. My partner Mike Gervasi is the one who handles the litigation matters, except for commercial landlord tenant being the only one that I do. But the business insurance law stuff he's staying on top of. Tell Bob I will get an answer and I'll get back to him.
Perfect. All right, I'll tell you, my sister's been doing great. My sister watches me every night. They live in Jersey. It's great. And I love it because it's funny. But you know what? She's been asking good questions. So I'm going to bring her up. So how long after that 60-day does a tenant have? Now, she's talking about that eviction. So you said in August, right?
Sure. So Mary, the answer is that that part is not entirely clear. From what I understand right now from the statement, that no eviction can take place during that time. I'm not sure if that means the marshal can serve the warrant then on the 20th or serve it for eviction at that point. So let's say if you have a warrant in hand by August 20th, that you're looking somewhere around the end of August. That's if you have a warrant in hand. However, in order to get there, you either have to have an existing, if you don't have a warrant already, you have to have an existing case that you bring to the point where a warrant is obtained, or you have to commence an action and get into court. And right now, the courts are not even open to these things. They are, doing work on some existing cases, but you cannot file a new landlord-tenant matter. It's May. Let's say that the courts open towards the end of May, beginning of June. Is it possible under normal circumstances to get an eviction in 2 to 3 months on the commercial side, at least? I mean, I do the commercial. I don't do housing court. It's not impossible. That probably is a little tough. So the question then becomes, how much leeway are the courts going to be giving tenants as this all plays out? I know that was a long-winded answer. To go back to the question in basic, if there was a warrant of eviction issued prior to all this hitting, and the tenant can't use COVID really as an excuse for why they're being evicted, they just sort of happened to get lucky that the warrant was stayed while this all went on, then maybe you're looking at, then you're looking at the end of August if you're lucky. However, I do feel that if anybody is coming into court with COVID-related issues, that there's going to be an inclination for the court to help them, probably if they pay some money to the landlord, but that is to be determined. I do want to note that during the news conference today, that the governor did say the state is working on relief from the banks for landlords also. He didn't go into specifics, but said that he's also looking to, for some kind of relief for the banks. So it could be that if I don't know what would really work all around, but the question has always been, okay, the tenant doesn't pay the landlord doesn't pay the mortgage. What happens to the banks when not collecting all these mortgage payments? But if some workable situation comes up, then it could be that there is some sort of some form of rent forgiveness for the next couple months, and then you wouldn't even be getting into court for some time, and it would shoot the eviction date even further. And as a final note, it is also always possible that the governor extends past August 20th. Additionally, the New York City Council has already thrown around going so far as to stay evictions until April of next year. But those things are uncertain and also could be challenged in court if they do come to pass.
Very thorough. I love it. Very, very thorough. All right, so let's see. I think we have one more, and I want to pull it up because I don't know the answer. It's not really a question, but our friend Vito Canena put up something that I want to throw up on the screen. 1 second, and it's saying that let's see. So this says tenants have 120 days not to pay, but landlords have 3 months of forgiveness.
Okay. So I think what Vito's getting at is the 90-day forbearance that banks they had to do on the residential front. They were encouraged to do on the commercial front. I know I mentioned the landlords and the tenants before. A lot of the banks have looked to help out too, to help their relationships, understanding the tough times. So we go back. It was I guess March they issued the stay. So really, it's been 5 months for the tenants. And he's right that the landlords are we're given 3 months. These rules have all developed, as time has gone along, and they've been piecemeal, and certainly they don't line up all the time. I guess we'll see what's to come, since the governor said that at least in the state level, other things are being worked on. But there's no doubt that at this point that the laws have been passed for the tenants first, and that the landlords are behind the tenants, and the banks may even be behind the landlords. So it's a lot. There's a lot to develop, and we're gonna have to see how it plays out.
Thank God I'm not a lawyer. I'm tired of just hearing all the jargon. How you understand and digest.
I'm trying to find different ways, to explain that I can't give a direct answer for so many situations. But the reality is we're all watching it play out, and overall, beyond just the personal interactions, it's been good to see that there has been some help. It's well thought out. There have been wild propositions from some in the state legislature and some in the city council that haven't come to pass, which means that reasonable voices are prevailing in some places. So hopefully, overall, stays that way. And, as we, come out of what hopefully is the worst part of it, and, into the new reality, we, don't see too much people using it to drive agendas and do things that, are very favorable to some parties and not to others.
Very cool. And with that, I am going to, we went like 10 minutes over. I apologize. So
yeah, no worries, right?
I'm gonna thank you so much for being with us again.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Thompson's email is in the comments. Please email him if you have a question. He shared some great information with us tonight. I appreciate it. I know I personally learned a lot. You shared a lot of value, especially on something that broke today. So thank you for being with us. We're going to close out. I'm going to leave you on the bottom, and I'll be back with you in like 5 minutes. All right.
All right. Sounds good.
So great stuff coming from Jimmy Thomson, one of the most intelligent people I know. As you can see, he's very thorough. He's very hands-on, and there's great stuff coming out of his law firm. One of the probably most trusted firms here on the island, as he mentioned, 60 years history. So if you do need or do have any questions, his email is in the comments. I encourage you to send him an email, pick up the phone. He will answer, and he'll give you great advice. And before we close, I just want to invite everybody to watch us tomorrow night at 7 p.m. So tomorrow night at 7, we're going to have Christopher Haynes. Christopher Haynes is a Staten Island resident who is the creator of an event that's going to be hosted this Saturday. What he's done is he is hosting a pop-up food pantry event. So as you all know, one of the ancillary effects of the coronavirus is lack of food and access to food. So the food pantries are working double time and triple time. People are struggling to get access to food. So Chris is going to be with us tomorrow. He's going to talk about his brand new initiative, how he laid it out, and how you can help participate in an event that he is putting on this Saturday night. And again, so the Saturday afternoon, excuse me. So we invite you to tune in tomorrow night at 7 p.m. All right. And that's it. So everyone who's watching, thank you for watching. Anyone who's listening, we appreciate it. Once again, this was COVID Talks, positive conversations during uncertain times. Have a great night.